How's it going, guys? It's Eclipse here, and today we're taking a look at top 5 tips and tricks for you to actually get better at World of Tanks console. So they're quite generic, but they're definitely my tips that I would give to myself if I started playing right now in 2021, and just to learn the game faster and get better and increase the opportunity to be able to actually improve upon your results that you're having at every single game, and just basically spending more time learning how to get better rather than just throwing myself at a brick wall and pretending like I'm doing well. So the first thing I want to show you is that yes, I was not always a 60% win rate player, as you can see on screen. We've got the Super Pershing here. This was my first ever premium tank that I ever bought, because I think it cost 2,500 gold or something like that back in the day when they had like a 70% discount on Black Friday. They don't do that anymore, unfortunately, but that was a long time ago. That must be like 6 years or 5 or 6 years ago now. But yeah, this was my first ever premium tank, and as you can see, 51% win rate. That's not brilliant at all. And then I had tanks like where is it? It's the tier 4, I believe, tank destroyer from the German line, which was the Hetzer, I believe, and that was terrible. My win rate in that. And also like the T44, this was as I was starting to get better and playing certain tanks. I managed to get 54% win rate, 50%, 54 again, 59 in the T54. And these tanks are slowly getting better, and now I typically average 60 to 70% in tanks I play now. Sometimes I can have like 75% depending on what it is, and that's usually depending on what the tank's actually good at. But anyway, getting back on track, 43% win rate here in the Jagdpanther in 123 battles, and I still didn't get the Jagdpanther 2. So yeah, I was not a good player back in the day, as was everyone when they first ever start playing this game. It's got quite a big and steep learning curve. And so what I'm going to suggest as your first option is to actually learn the tanks in game, and just learn the ways in which you can take out certain tanks. So the first thing is definitely learning the armor of tanks. So, and traditionally what the weaknesses of every single line pretty much is in general. So you're not going to be able to find that out straight away, I know, but if we have a look on certain tanks, and you can do this if you go onto the tech tree, and then you just scroll up down the various lines. So let's go for the American, just as an example, for the heavy tanks, and that is if we go for the M103, for example, and we go to the armor viewer by pressing RB, or R1, I believe, on Xbox, or on PS4 even. And then, as you can see, this viewer will show you where the weakest points are. So as you go along, this is 6mm, and that's the track armor there. And then we've got the actual tracks. And then as you move on, we've got the engine deck here, which is 25mm. So obviously prone to artillery if artillery hits there. And then the most notable places are this bit here. So this is a turret. It's really weak, and it's only 38mm. If you manage to actually hit that area on top, if you've got a 120mm gun, you'll be able to go through that. And equally, you'll see that this cupola here, this is actually 101mm. So if you actually manage to go through that, you'll penetrate the tank, which pretty much every tank at tier 9 will be able to do. And also, the common weak spots that you'll find out with the American tanks is actually this lower plate on this hull. So you see there's a bar there, just above that, which is strong. So you don't want to be hitting that, but you want to look, and you see the weakest bit on the bottom of the tank, or on the front of the hull, which is the area just underneath the turret, and it's actually this place here. So as you can see, this yellow area highlighted, this is where you want to be aiming at the tank. And also, what this doesn't tell you is actually as a tank moves around, the armor will actually get stronger depending on the angle. So if this tank is like this, and you try and shoot that middle bit of the plate, it will just bounce off because it's not likely. So you want to hit that inner bit right next to the left hand side of the track if you're facing this way, and it'll actually go in. So whichever way they're angling against you, say if he was moved like this, you want to hit the bit closest to you on the lower plate of the Americans. And so you'll learn this for most of the tanks. Similarly to the Russian heavies, is you'll find that the lower plates are the bits that you want to hit, except when it comes to certain novel tanks that don't generally have the exact same thing, like the Object 279E, where you can't actually pen it unless it comes up over a ridgeline and you can pen the underside of it. But that's something we won't get into in this kind of video, and you'll learn that as you get towards tier 10 and advance towards 6,000 battles or something like that. As you can see, the IS-4, where's the weakest point? It's actually on the lower plate, if you can actually get that, and you tend to be able to, and often you can go through the upper plate there. So being able to test, say, if you've got 300mm of penetration on your gun, and you see this from above, you're 100% going to be able to go through the front of it. And it's picking these spots like the lower plate and the upper plate, if you know that you can go through them, and that will generally make you have a better game. You can also look on YouTube. There's so many guides on YouTube, and this is something I did personally, as I was just watching better players than me at the time just play games. Literally just watching how they did everything, where they were aiming, watching reviews and just guides as to different tanks. And you don't even have to watch reviews and guides. It's literally, if you just watch a good player playing a certain tank, you'll see where they're aiming at certain tanks, and then you can kind of use that in your own gameplay, and that's something I would 100% look at. As well as using some third-party things like tanks.gg. If you type that into the internet, it will come up with like a list of tanks that you can click on, and it will actually show you a bit like the module viewer that we've just gone over, except it's actually got the live model, so you can see if you move a tank how well the armor stacks up, depending on where you position it, and the effect of like angling your tank to increase your armor and your effective armor. So we'll move on to the next tip now, and that is fire at tanks on the reload. So when you get hit, straight away you should be thinking, right, that tank's fired, how long's the reload of it? If you kind of know the gist of it, say you've got a British TD with a fast firing gun, you probably don't want to stop and reload and fire at it whilst it's on a reload. Whereas if you've got something like a Russian TD with 700 alpha, it's probably got a 15-second reload to be able to hit you again. So as soon as you get hit, or they miss you, or whatever happens with that tank, so long as there's not loads of other tanks that are going to be able to hit you, if it's a one-on-one, if they miss, you should be pushing that advantage whilst you can to be able to get your shot back in and then pull back around the corner. Don't just run away and take the hit. Try and get another shot back into them to be able to make the trade better in your favour. So, if you get hit for 700, that's 100% better for them, because obviously they've not taken any damage. But if you hit them back for 400, they're going to have taken, a 60% better, or not even that, a 40% better trade than they would have actually had. So that's the thing you've got to do. If you get hit, make sure you try and actually hit them back, so long as you're not taking any other hits from anyone else, if it's in a safe environment. If there's 3 tanks that are shooting at you and one of them clips you, don't pull back around the corner. But if there's only one, then definitely try and get that shot back on them to make the trade better. Number 3 is learning when and if you should retreat or move or change position on the map. Generally getting a better map awareness in game. And this comes slowly. You can't just suddenly one day decide you're going to be good at map awareness and map positioning. Because obviously you have to learn the maps first and where people tend to go and what are the good positions. But if you focus on finding out when you're losing, why that possibly could have been, and where your team necessarily went and died, you can kind of work out the positions which don't work well on the maps. And also, if there's 3 of your tanks and your team or your light tank spots that there's 10 or 11 tanks on the enemy team coming your way, then you don't want to be facing 3 versus 11, because even if you're one of the best players in the game, you'll be able to possibly take out the first 2 tanks that come around that corner, but after that, or if they all come at once, there's no chance. And what happens is, instead of it being a trade 1 for 1, it will be a trade 1 for 5, and then you just get taken out straight away before you even reload. So yeah, it's being able to choose when you need to run away, and also what you need to do when you see that happen straight away. You need to be thinking, right, time to get away, time to move down with my team, get some support. So if all of them come at once, they're going to be getting hit by not just 3 tanks, but 10 potentially on your team, etc. So yeah, definitely learning that, and also learning the maps. Just trying to find out where the best positions are, and that kind of comes with time, but it's just having a look at certain maps. And also, yet again, coming back to the YouTube thing, is actually seeing where people tend to come. So that will also come with the whole watching other people play and deciding what they're going to do, and then you can kind of learn that from them to be able to put it into your own gameplay and figure out, right, this spot's good for a medium tank, this spot's good for a TD, I should probably go with the medium spot if I'm in a medium tank. And that's basically what it is, what positions are best for certain tank types, where the maps have a good crossfire potential, where you can shoot tanks without them even being able to shoot you back, and just generally those things. I'll try and put a few clips of positions where I tend to go on different maps in different tanks on screen, and also I will try and make a guide for certain maps and show you the typical positions you want to be going in, say your medium, your tank destroyers, your heavies, etc. in different games. But that does revolve around specific tank kind of attributes, and certain tanks do better at certain positions, so I can't go over everything, but you can kind of think, well, if I'm in a strong armoured turret tank, I'm probably better off using a hill if I've got gun depression than I am using my whole tank out on a corner, if that makes sense. So, another thing, what I don't see too many people actually doing is being able to track and pen a tank. That no one seems to actually go for the tracks, just to lock tanks down. And I find this, that I actually do quite well in games, just because I'll be able to aim at the track and pen at the same time, and then you get all of the assistance damage then from your teammates hitting the tank, and also you lock it down so your teammates have a better chance at being able to hit the tank and not have to aim for weak spots if they can just hit the side, etc. So if you aim for those tracks and pens, then you'll definitely do better, and you'll learn which tanks are more likely to get tracked and penned. And that's things like the Conqueror, the British tanks. They tend to have massive tracks, and the bit right behind the frontal drive wheel there is often actually armour, and therefore you can pen, whereas Russian tier 10 heavies may have a harder time actually being able to be tracked and penned, because the armour layout that they have doesn't suit. So things like the 277 might be slightly harder, because as you can see, you could miss if you hit the lower part of the track, so you have to be aiming further in on the tank to be able to pen it there. And yeah, just aiming for the tracks might even be a better shot than actually just going for damage sometimes, because you'll be able to track them out in the open, especially if they pull round a corner. If you track them there what happens is often you can actually out-reload their track repair speed, and you can just keep them tracked in a certain position on the corner, and then you can just keep putting one shot in, then you track them again, and often your teammates can actually hit them at the same time, and therefore you get more assistance damage and damage in total, and you'll tend to win more games if you keep your opponents tracked out where your teammates can shoot them as well. And therefore you get another tank out of the game, and then you're going to be winning more games if you get more tanks knocked out of the game from your influence. And one of the main points here that I want to iterate is actually the setup of your tank. If you set your tank up wrong, you're going to come into a position where you're just worse if you meet yourself or your equivalent tank on the battlefield. One-on-one, you're just going to be point blank worse, aren't you? Because say if I was taking this T-34-85M here, and we have a look at what we've set it up with, if we've chosen advanced repair system, a spool liner, and advanced suspension as our equipment, and the other person's taken the view range, the loading time, and the crew performance, they're going to get a 15% reload advantage over us because we've got repairs and ramming and explosion defense, and that's going to be massive. So they've got a 15% better chance at removing us from the game quicker, and that will often mean that they can actually shoot you once more in the same amount of time. Probably if you're both on full health, they're going to be able to outspot you, so you might not be able to see them in game, and therefore you're not going to be able to shoot back unless you aim for the tracer where the round is coming from, in the bush or in the field or wherever it's from, and that's often where you can get a little bit of extra damage, but we won't go into that in the scope of this video. But yeah, so picking the right equipment, and I've got a few equipment guides that will be coming out soon for specifically World of Tanks console since the update 6.0. And you can see here a view range, loading time, and crew performance are a thing that I tend to pick on any tank. If we then just go to a random one that has equipment in, you might see the Conqueror here. We've got crew performance, loading time, and then accuracy. So this is another big one that people will choose. If you're in a gun that isn't that accurate, you might pick the gun stabilizer, and that's something extra that you need to look at. Furthermore, consumables. This is something huge as well, and it gives you a massive advantage. And today, I tend to don't ever pick fire extinguishers now, because the one good thing about them is actually you could put the fire out automatically with the premium one, and having a 25% chance to catch fire is not really worth it when it's only a 10% chance anyway. That'll mean that you've only got an extra 2.5% chance of actually getting set on fire. So it's not particularly that amazing, because it's cumulative, so it's 25% of whatever it's been before, and so yeah, I don't particularly think that that's amazing. So it's between picking your enhanced rations or your enhanced fuel boost. Picking either of those is a good option depending on what tank you're on, but generally I will pick enhanced rations just because it makes everything in your tank 10% better. And also you have the active boost where you can get an extra 15% crew performance, which means that when you press the button you'll have 25% crew performance, I believe, or it will be an extra 5. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but I'm guessing that it's cumulative, so it'll actually add another 15% on, but that's not entirely given right there. Also, using an enhanced repair kit is kind of key. I tend to use that, but just because if you get hit multiple times in the ammo rack in, say, a British tank, which tends to happen quite a lot, you want to be able to repair that and also move on. And if you get tracked for later on in the game, then yeah, using that is kind of really good. And so the way that I would run these is choosing my enhanced rations as my first premium consumable, and then potentially going with an enhanced repair kit. And then, to be honest with you, I wouldn't recommend using an enhanced med kit, because the amount of times that you lose multiple crew members multiple times a game is not particularly that much. And so I'm actually going to replace the one that I've got and put it to a standard one, because it's a waste of 17,000 credits every game, especially considering you're probably not going to get knocked out that much every single game. So yeah, that's something you want to keep an eye on. And the ammo, this is another key thing. Choosing premium rounds when you have the silver available. Don't go firing them willy-nilly and that's the only round you fire. But choosing premium rounds can really actually help your tank a lot, actually. So as you can see in this little box with the Conqueror icon, you can see that the first round that we pick has 259 millimeters of penetration at 100 meters, and the second round has 326. So this is a big difference. You get 70 millimeters more pen and the same damage, and you actually gain an increased shell velocity, so it will hit the tank that you're shooting at faster as well. So obviously it's a better round in general, but it does cost 4.5 times as much credit, so it's a trade-off really. And yeah, definitely picking your premium rounds at certain points in the game, and you'll learn this as to what tanks you're coming up against, will increase the amount of damage you're doing, because you won't bounce on a certain tank that you might have done with the standard rounds. So learning that as well will help you out. Furthermore, you've got things that you might not have already known about, but this is camouflage. It will actually increase your concealment, which means you can be kept in a better concealment rating, and therefore you will actually not get spotted as often as you might have done if you didn't pick it. So this is something I'm not a fan of, actually, because it costs so much silver if you want it for 30 days, and because you've got 4 different slots, you know, you're going to have to pay 90,000 for 30 days, and therefore you're going to pay 4 lots of that, which is going to be 360,000 silver every single month for just one tank, which is really expensive, especially if you play multiple tanks. And the gold cost is just extortionate, having to pay 225 unless you've got vouchers. But yeah, picking those will just increase the chance of you not getting spotted, basically, by a little bit. It's nothing massive, but it does increase your concealment, and therefore you're not going to get spotted as often. And the last thing is picking your commander's perks. And this is, yet again, probably the most influential thing that you'll ever find on World of Tanks is your perks and the loadout that you pick. So we'll just pick a random one here, a light tank crew. And this is picking perks that suit the tank that you're playing. The first thing that I always pick is Sixth Sense. And this is just, in my eyes, the best thing you can possibly do, because it is so influential. It tells you exactly when you get spotted, as soon as you get spotted. And if you go around a corner, get spotted, you instantly know there's someone probably round that corner that's going to know where you are, and you pull back, you get out the way, and you don't go around the corner. If you pull slightly around the corner, your Sixth Sense doesn't go off, then more than likely there's no one looking or has the ability to look at where that corner is. You'll probably be alright, unless someone comes around the corner just as you come around the corner at the same time. But yeah, that perk is massive, and it's definitely the first one I would ever get on any perk crew. The only reason I don't have it as the first selected one is because this already had 9 crews, and I was just going through picking them as I went through. Then again, we've got Born Leader, which is the second perk I will always pick, just because it's so good in general. Then you'll probably want a 10% buff to DPM, and that is with the gun rapid loading, and that reduces your reload speed. And then probably a 10% increase to accuracy. And then it's really up to you, but the ones you want to be looking at are the concealment ones. If you're in a heavy tank, definitely track mechanic, and possibly in some mediums, picking track mechanic is good as well, like the British ones where you get tracked a lot. And then, you know, you might want mark target if you're in a light tank, and also the view range ones are really good, just a 6% buff to view range, which is really good, and you'll be able to spot tanks. And then maybe in heavies you want to be picking off-road driving or clutch braking, which just increases the manoeuvrability of your heavy tank. So if a light tank comes around you, you'll be able to turn quicker, and therefore you might be able to get a shot off into them before they get around your gun. And that's something just where in situations you'll do an extra shot of damage that you wouldn't have done before putting these sort of things on, which is influential, and you'll get more damage overall, and therefore that tank might have died that came around you, and that's just the small things all add up on this game. And so if you can do a 5% bonus to loads of different things, and you'll be able to hit tanks that come around you, or hit tanks that you wouldn't have been able to spot because you have a better view range than them. And yeah, it's just all of the small things that add up, and learning everything takes time. I mean, I've played probably 20,000 battles by now, I expect. I don't know if we can actually see that now because of this new statistics thing. But yeah, I think I've played around about 20,000 battles now. I mean, let's not look at the most played class I've used, but all of the other ones, yeah, I've probably played 20,000 battles now. So that's the things that I could think of, and I hope I've actually explained them well enough, because I feel like if I just say you need to get better at map awareness, it doesn't really help you out that much unless I explain what I mean by that. And so I hope that the video didn't go on for too long and you felt I was just waffling. But I genuinely hope it did actually help some of you guys, and I hope that eventually, after I start producing some of the guides, you'll actually be able to cross-link all of these things and ideas, and be able to use some of the different things from each of the videos that I make around that kind of thing, and be able to put it into your own gameplay. And you know, you might do 20% better than you were doing before, and that will be fantastic for me, and I hope that will be really good for you guys too. But anyway, that's everything I've got for this video. I will be releasing a bit more of an advanced kind of one soon that I hope you guys will look at as well. But that will be for more experienced players. Not saying that any beginners can't be able to look at that, but yeah, you might not understand as much about it. So there we go. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you found it informative, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Goodbye.